Hi everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm excited to be sharing with you this week more about Orff Instruments and how you can explore with students how you can use some tactics more successfully or less successfully depending on what it is you're doing. My plan this week is to share a little bit more about what I do with exploration on certain grades or how I introduce certain things. Last week I talked about upper grades and now I'm going to talk about younger grades, hopefully talking about how to introduce like bordun patterns, how to introduce some more instrument exploration, how you can do some rhythm reading and sort of lead to some improvisation at a variety of different levels. So hopefully it's something that you can use with younger grades, with intermediate grades, or adapt for older grades too. It just sort of depends on what it is you want to do and how you want to use that. So that's what I'm going to get to in just a second. Before I get there, let me just say that as I'm talking about things as we're going today, if I say like, oh, it's on the links page, or I'll put a link to that on the links page, there's a page on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org, under the video tab that has like a recap of everything I talk about in these weekly videos. So it'll have any products I talk about, or a resource that I really love I used, or an image or a video I found. I put all those links on a page. You can go to it if you go to my blog, or you can just click the link at the bottom of the video you're currently watching, unless you're on Instagram, which is in my LinkedIn profile, and there's a link to that links page where all of those things are listed. Okay, one quick thing. So there's the links page. I always try to talk about that in case you're new or you've not seen this before and you want to know what I'm talking about when I say the links thing. The other thing is I'm excited. I'm going to be in Mississippi, but I'm going to be at Mississippi Music Educators on May 1st, so I hope that you will, if you're a Mississippi music teacher, I hope that you will consider coming to the state conference through the virtual conference. I'm excited to be presenting for 4 sessions, I can't remember, quite a few sessions that day. It's going to be jam-packed and we're going to have a lot of fun, so I hope that you will, if you're in Mississippi and you're part of MSMEA, I hope you'll join us that day. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Orff Instruments today. I'll just say I'm going to try and share some of the things that have worked well for me, some things I may be doing this week in my classroom. If you have questions along the way, please ask those. I'll try and do my best to answer any questions that I see, but because I want to sort of move back so you can see the Orff Instrument itself, I'm sort of further from the camera, and I'm getting older, and the print on this Facebook Live is small. So if I miss your comment, I will try and come back to it when I see it, but just leave it in the chat and I'll come back to it best I can when I see it. But I'm just going to sort of share through sort of what I'm doing. If you have questions like, well, how do you adapt that for such and such, or how do you handle blah, 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 I'd be happy to try and talk about that. Okay, and one more thing, I'm going to try and flip the camera here on Facebook. I can't do it on Instagram, but I can do it on Facebook, so let me try and do this so that you can see sort of a more correct orient, so you don't get the mirror view. Okay, all set to go. So last week I talked about a couple different things. So I talked about how I introduced a song with my 4th graders, sort of like the process that I used leading into teaching it. And I talked a little bit about sort of some exploration things. I wanted to share just a couple things. I used to have, I think I might have talked about this last week, but I used to have this like big Orff Instrument visual that was like made of foam core, and you could like pull bars off or put bars on. It was really cool when I started teaching 10 years ago. And I think it's still cool. I think I still have it somewhere, but it is not as easy to use, and like I kept having problems with like the Velcro or like things falling off, and it was sort of a mess. So now I got wise and I just have a digital sort of picture that I use. This is just on my iPad, right? Like for right now today. But I use this visual of a xylophone, basically what a kids would see if they were looking down at their xylophone, or their metallophone or their glockenspiel. And I use this and I project it. So like my projector doesn't project onto a screen, it projects right onto the whiteboard. And the really great thing is that like then I can like use a dry erase marker and mark it up or write on it, or I can, you know, do whatever. I also, because it's on my iPad, I could like grab a thing and mark it up on the screen or whatever, and then it would show up on the big screen. But I like having something like this so that the kids can see what they're actually looking down at. I think it's just really important that like you try and hit them in multiple ways of like saying the name of the letter, or saying the name of the bar, or using words, or using analogies, or giving them a visual, or physically walking around and making sure that their hands are correct, because it gives them so many different ways to connect when kids are all different kinds of learners. So I wanted to share that I use this. You can easily make this yourself. You could like find a xylophone visual. If you type like xylophone visual into Google, I mean, you're going to get a clip art. You could buy a clip art set like the one that I use. Like my classroom decor bundles that I share on Teachers Pay Teachers, the classroom decor, it comes with like, I mean, instrument labels, right? And wall labels and a word wall and, soprano recorder fingering charts, all of that. But it also includes visuals like this. So if you have that already, or if you want to purchase that, that's something that's included in there too. But like anything you do, no matter what you do, I would encourage you to find a way to show some sort of visual so that kids can see, or so you can mark up, so you can have a bigger version. So you're not just saying like, oh, C, you know, or D or E or whatever. You're actually sort of showing them, you're giving them multiple options. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about that really quick, because it's so helpful. It's important to have. So last time I talked about sort of the way that I taught some of those songs and some of the little tips and tricks and things that went along with that. I want to talk about what I've noticed in the last couple days, and I want to talk about some different strategies for teaching some other stuff. So what's always interesting is I always forget, like, you know, what kids know, and, you know, sorry, let me trying to think of how I'm saying this better. I always forget like how much time kids have had on instruments, because if I'm doing a xylophone lesson, or an Orff Instrument lesson with multiple grades, and I'm teaching it every day, you know, I always forget that like it is so familiar to me. I feel like I'm doing it every single day, but like, you know, the kids on their rotation, it might have been a while since they've been in an instrument. So every like first day back, I have to keep repeating those things I feel like I'm saying all the time every day. But I realize, you know, repetition is fine. It's good for kids. They need to hear it multiple times. So things that I always say to kids: remember to hold your mallets like turtles. And I pull out my little turtle puppet, and we talk about how like the mallet should have a long head with a neck on the end, and it should have a shell here and a little tiny tail. The feet can come out if you need them to. If you want to be really silly, you can have a turtle with no neck and a really long tail, or vice versa. You can have no tail and a really long neck. That looks so silly. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I always talk about the turtles. You're gonna have two turtles, and then I say, do you think the turtle would like to lay on his back like this? No. How about on his side? No. Okay, how about like this? And then I'll do things like, okay, I want you to tell me which one is correct. If it's right, hold, you know, thumbs up. Okay, how about this? No. Okay, how about this? No. Okay, how about this? No. Okay, how about this? Great. Okay, how about this? No. Okay, how about and then it's like basically like David trying to like do all the weird things that he has seen kids do in the past day, because there are always these kids who like they try and like, I don't know, do some weird thing. I don't know why, they're just being silly or whatever. But I just always try and like, you know, try and get them to remember what is not the correct way, but like a good way to hold so that they're more successful overall. Because I mean, you could probably hold it like this and like do your thing, but it's not maybe not as easy, and it's not the way that we've talked about before. So in our class, so I always try and remind them of like, oh hey, remember how you do that? Oh, also remember your feet are on the floor. You know, like I always have to try and remind myself like, you gotta go through all of those reminders every time. So it's something I forget that like they haven't been here this whole time like me. I know that's silly, but it's something that I always have to remind myself to do. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a couple different things. One of the things I want to talk about is teaching kids how to do a bordoun. And a bordoun is, if you've not taken Orff Schulwerk training or you're not familiar, a bordoun is well, basically on an open fifth, it's an ostinato pattern. It's a repeating pattern. It provides a harmonic accompaniment. We use it all the time in Orff work. If you've ever been to an Orff workshop, you've probably heard. And you might have heard people's catchphrase that they jokingly say it's the International Orff Hello. Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? It's like, it's the Orff calling card. And the reason that we do this is that so many of the songs that we play or teach or when we improvise or whatever, we usually do it on a pentatonic scale, a lot of times in C pentatonic because the instrument just facilitates that so well. And so the bordun is that repeating pattern, usually on an open fifth, and it's there to provide a harmonic bass. It's there to give you sort of that rhythmic pulse. It's there to pull everything together, and it's more than just a steady beat. It's more than that. So it really is an ostinato. And the reason we do that is so that you can build other things off of it. I think that the most common one is the most often used is ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. Will you be my friend? But what I found is last year I was like, I get tired of saying will you be my friend all the time. And I don't think that works if kids are saying will you be my friend. Will you be my friend is nice when it's fast. But so often I need kids to slow it down because maybe the part that we're playing on top of that. And so bum 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 is fine. But if kids are learning, to learn that more moving rhythmic part, you need something underneath that's nice, a good steady pulse. And when that thing that they're trying to do, they really want to speed up. Because will you be my friend is so boring when it's will you be my friend. And I find that part of the problem is like between will you, it's like no, it's like will you be my friend? Will you? So there's like the I don't know. I wanted to try different things this year because that phrase specifically, it's like, it feels like there's a disconnect between the words. And so I wanted something that like, what's going to get my kids to keep that rhythmic pulse? What's going to keep them energized and excited and doing different things. So as I was trying to teach this to like my first graders, I just like went nuts and I was like, I'm going to try something new. And then I tried it with my fourth graders. And then it just sort of ballooned, and it's something I'm trying that's different. So I thought I'd share it with you in case you wanted to try it and see if it worked for you, or see if you're like, this is crazy, don't ever do that again. But so what I started out with my first graders was telling them about, and I'll just preface this by saying, when I was in school, I remember like my favorite teachers always had a story or had a narrative, or as I'm learning things like from vocabulary to stories or facts or things, it was like, if you can put it in the context of a story, I can remember it better. And I think as musicians and as artists, we're good at storytelling. It's like what we do. And so I remember Mrs. Riddick, my high school Spanish teacher, who also happened to be my elementary music teacher, would explain like odd Spanish vocabulary that we were just having a hard time with. She would come up with some crazy story to remind us. A chair, a silla. She's like, it's somebody's leaning back in their chair and then they fall over and you're like, see ya. And then, I don't know why, but that silly, crazy story, I remembered it so well. So as I'm thinking about will you be my friend, or, this bordun pattern, like, what could I possibly do to help them remember? And for my first graders, as I was teaching them that, I decided, I'm going to try and teach them with just one hand first, and then I'll add the other hand, and then we'll put it together. So because with first grade especially, or second grade depending, it's like the movement of two hands is difficult. It's just difficult for them to master. So why not try one and then the other and see if we can put it together? So I went crazy with a story, and here's the story. So a long time ago, there was a king. This is the king. I'd never named the king. King Mallet? I don't know. So here's the king, here's his head and his body. You have to sort of imagine his arms and legs. You have to imagine his little crown. But he's the king, and he lives down here in the castle, which starts with a C. So he's down here on the bar C. And he one day he said, The meal was wonderful. Tell the chef it was so wonderful. And the chef's like, oh, thank you so much. Okay, but I would like dessert. And the chef's like, well, what would you like? I would like chocolate cake. Bring me chocolate cake. And the chef's like, I'm sorry, what? What do you want me to bring? Bring me chocolate cake. I'm sorry, I'm old. I can't hear you. It's loud in here. What'd you say? Bring me chocolate cake. I'm sorry, what? It's your accent. I just can't. Maybe I just can't hear. What do you want? You want a snake? No, not a snake. Bring me chocolate cake. Bring me a drake? Are you talking about like a bird? What are you talking about? Bring me chocolate cake. Okay. Somebody's friend Jake, what? Bring me chocolate cake. Bring me chocolate cake. And so then the kids were like, they thought that was hilarious. And so what we did was then we went back down to C. And we did, bring me chocolate cake. Bring me chocolate cake. And you have to say it until he like gets the, because what, huh? And so, bring me chocolate cake. And I think the problem is he's not understanding. Can we slow it down a little bit? Maybe you can hear it a little better. Bring me chocolate cake. Bring me chocolate cake. And so oh, chocolate cake. Oh, of course, wonderful. Oh, wonderful, great. I'll wait over here for my chocolate cake. But meanwhile, the queen, who was out in the garden, she was walking out in the garden, she came in, she went, oh, that was such a lovely dinner. Now I'd love some dessert. And then the other chef came in and said, oh, what would you like? Gingerbread, please. I'm sorry, what? I said gingerbread, please. I'd love some gingerbread. Sorry, what? What did you say? Bring me gingerbread. Sorry, I can't understand. So then we went through the same thing. Bring me gingerbread. Bring me gingerbread. And so then she was out in the garden, which starts with a G. Oh, and so does gingerbread. They both start with G. So, okay, so up here there's the biggest bar we were just using, long, low, left. That was the longest bar we have, the lowest bar we have on our left. That's what we were using for C. So count up. The queen wants to be sort of close to the king. So here's the king on C. Find the closest G, the closest letter G. Okay, so she's on this G. Can you say bring me gingerbread for the but it's got to be slow. Remember the chef, he can't hear so well. Bring me gingerbread. Bring me gingerbread. Perfect. Okay, so the king is going to get chocolate cake and the queen is going to get gingerbread. But once they've been waiting, they're hungry, and they're like, oh, where's our food? And so then they're trying to find out, and so they can't say like bring me chocolate cake. They're thinking like maybe if we say it together, like the chef will finally bring it out. So but they can't like one say chocolate cake and one say gingerbread because then it'll be confusing and the words get mixed up. So instead, the king stands on C, the queen stands on G, and they say, bring me royal food. Bring me royal food. Bring me royal food. Bring me royal food. And anytime the kids would speed up, I'd be like, no. The chef's not going to get that. You got to slow it down. Like when you're talking to an old person like me. And they just can't hear. You just got to slow it down for them so they can hear a little bit better. So that's what we're going to do. Bring me royal food. Bring me royal food. And like for some reason that story with them of like telling them like they gotta slow it down, the chef can't hear, blah blah blah, the kids were like, yes. And when we did it first with just one doing chocolate cake and the other one just doing gingerbread, like they got it, they got the different hands, and then putting them together was actually pretty successful. And then when we were ready to speed up, you could speed up. But doing that just first, each one separate, seemed to work pretty well. Again, with my younger kids, my first graders, it worked pretty well, and then putting it together was fine. With my older kids, when I use the same story, I like to see would it work, and to see how would it work. We did the different things separate, and that helped them sort of cement where each person went, right? And then we just put it together pretty quickly, and they could handle it. That's not the only bordoon you have, though. So that's a chord bordoon. It's one of the first things you might use, and you can use it for all different sorts of things. Please take Orff levels. Take summer Orff education courses, teacher education courses, because they will tell you, and you will learn, what bordoon works for what songs. It's all based in theory, and it helps you understand, what goes together and what works harmonically. I mean, there's a whole thing to it, but anyway, so go there if you want to learn the pedagogy behind it. But I'm going to talk about another kind of bordoon called a broken bordoon. I'm going to quick hit a couple comments here. Yay, hope this is helpful. Looks like it is for a couple people. Will you play with me from David? That's another great idea you could do. But again, sort of there are breaks in there, so that's why I went with the royal version. Carrie says, what's the label on the end of your xylophone? This, I'm assuming you're talking about, is just a number. It's number 16. So to help kids know what instrument they should get. I also have labels to tell them what instrument the instrument is. So they got that. But I think you meant the label on top, Carrie. Okay, broken bordoon. A broken bordoon is basically the same thing. It's an open fifth. So C and G, or D and A, or F and C, depending on what key you're in. But in this, again, in this class I was in C, and so C and G. Chord is when they're together, but broken is when they're separate. So eventually I want kids to get to this. It's just a repeating pattern. For some kids, super easy, but and other kids, not. So I was like, well, let's take the king and see what happens. Let's take that king story and see what happens. So then the story the next time was, so the king and queen, they were eating and they were enjoying their royal food, and the king said, so let me tell you about, let me tell you about my day. Oh no, I will tell you about my day. I will tell you, so the peasants came in, and I'll tell you my day, the ladies in waiting, and let me tell you about, and then the horses, and they kept interrupting each other. And then they were really sort of talking over each other. You can't really hear a lot when you're talking over another person, so that was sort of upsetting for both of them. And then someone else came in and said, oh, king and queen, I have no but, and then they said, oh, quit interrupting. Don't interrupt. You should not interrupt. Oh no, interrupting is so rude. I can't believe interrupting. Oh, and then they're interrupting each other to tell someone not to interrupt, which doesn't make any sense. They were really interrupting each other to begin with. But they were just interrupting. It was really, they said, oh, how rude, interrupting. Because you really should stop and let the other person finish and hear what they're saying, right? So anyway, so the king is standing on C and the queen is on G, and they're going to sort of interrupt each other. One person talks and the other person talks, and the other one talks and the other talks, and they're interrupting. And what they say is, interrupting? Oh, how rude. Interrupting? Oh, how rude. And you can't just say interrupting. You have to say it like you're so upset about interrupting. You have to sort of say it like you mean it, right? Interrupting? Oh, how rude. Interrupting? Oh, how rude. It's just like you can't just say interrupting. You have to say interrupting. And for some reason, making a big deal about how you say it, the kids are like, that is right. Interrupting. You can't just say interrupting. You have to say interrupting, like you really mean it. So that's what they're going to say, and we're going to play that. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. And we're starting with C, because the king is going to go first, because he's the king. So it's going to go like this. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. And then guess what? The queen's mother came in, and the queen, so the queen mother. Anyway, the queen's mother came in. She couldn't hear at all, and she was like, "What? What did you say?" And they said, "Interrupting. Oh, how rude! Interrupting. Oh, how rude!" So we had to slow it down for her to say it, and then somebody else came by, and they were walking by fast, and the king and queen wanted to hear them, so they said a little faster. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. They had to go a little faster so the person could hear it. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. And they'd already walked away by the time. So we had to say it a little faster. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. Interrupting. Oh, how rude. So I played with the tempo on that just so that they could like see it at different tempi and like what that's like. But I like the version where it slows it way down, like the queen's mother comes in or whatever, so the grandma comes in, so that they can slow it down for her. But because I want them to play it successfully, but I also want to be able to play it slow successfully because so much of what we're doing when this is going to be the accompaniment, it needs to be a little slower. So that's just sort of where we went with that broken bordoon. I mean, you can make this more or less silly, whatever you want. I think the sillier you are, the more kids will remember it. That's been my experience. Or the more I remember it, the better more fun lesson it is. So I like to go on the silly side. There's another kind of bordoon, and it's the kind called a crossover. And a crossover is like you're crossing over, you're crossing hands, and you're jumping up and over. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. Again, on an open fifth, so a C, a G, and an octave above C. Or if you're an A, D, or F, C, F, or whatever key you're in, G, D, G, whatever key you're in for that open fifth. But again, for my purposes with my kids, we're doing C, G, C. And this, again, this is probably not something I would probably teach until, well, it depends on your curriculum. It depends on what it is you want to do, but it's not something I would hit until at least second, probably third grade, and not use regularly until fourth or fifth. But it depends on you and your kids and how often you see them and what it is you're doing and what the song calls for. And there's so many things about it. But again, what's the story that goes with it? If we're sticking with the king and the queen, and I was like, okay, how am I going to make this work? Because in the past, there's a book called Jump, Frog, Jump. That's a really fun little book. And it's basically that stuff happens and then it goes, jump, frog, jump. And the jump has to jump. So the story that I always used to use is the, jumping over the other and then the frog, the story. And then of course I bring in my puppet because, of course, and the puppet can, explain away the jumping part. It really easily can embody that jumping. So that's what I used to always do is this frog. Well, now I'm on this king and queen kick, so what am I going to do? So, the one day, and usually, hold on. Let's see if I've got, usually, I pull out secondary mallets for this one because this is introducing a new character. So, the king and the queen, they sit in the court all day and they get very bored. And so there's this person called a jester, and the jester comes in and the jester looks silly. So I usually try and pull out a mallet that looks different from the others or is not the same. Usually what I try and do is I pull out the one where it's a yarn mallet, but the yarn is frayed, and so part of it is coming off, and it's weird. It's a weird one. So I say that's the jester, and the jester comes in, and the jester, at first the jester's like, let me tell you a joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? And, we go through a little joke. And the king's like, ha, 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 ha. And then the next day the jester comes in and goes, knock, knock. Not funny. I don't like those jokes anymore. Oh, you don't? Okay. Let me think of another joke. No jokes. Tell me a funny story. Okay, so then he tells him a funny story. I don't know. Somebody slips in jelly or I don't know, whatever. Oh, ha, 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 ha. The next day the jester comes in. He's like, jokes don't work. Stories don't work. Oh, maybe I can sing a funny song. Okay, funny song, great. Ha ha ha. And then the next day, but the king just keeps, not thinking things are funny. The jester keeps trying new things. So then one day the king's like, no, no jokes, no stories, no songs. Don't think those are funny. Nope, no puppet shows. I don't want anything like that. No, that's not funny. Don't tell me that. Tell me something new. And the jester's like, oh, and he falls over. And the king's like, I love it. Do that again. And he just falls over. How funny. Oh my gosh. Oh, how funny. And so the jester's like, oh, I guess I'm into physical comedy now. And so the jester's like, running around and falling. And the king's like, and the next day the king's like, that's not funny. That small jump is not funny anymore. I don't think it's funny. Fall into that puddle. So the jester goes and falls in a puddle. Okay, and then the next day that's not funny. He's like, fall into that haystack. Oh, so it keeps just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until one day, nothing makes the king laugh, and the jester's like freaking out. And so then the king says, I know, go out to the edge of the castle and jump over the moat. I bet that would be funny. And the jester's like, over the moat? You want me to jump over the moat? Yes, I'm sure that would be hilarious. Let's see it. So the jester goes out to one castle way down here, and this is a big jump, right? So it's going to be like a huge jump. So, it's going to be a huge jump from one castle to the next. And down below is the king's watching. He's like, hello, and he's watching. So he goes, Jester. The poor jester's jumping from castle to castle, from castle to castle. The king's like, oh, that's wonderful, but I want you jumping over the small part of the moat. Jump over the other part of the moat. He's like, the other part of the moat? Yes, the one with the alligators in it. And so the jester's like, wait, there's a part of the moat that has alligators in it? And so then the gators are down here, and they're waiting, and the jester's jumping. And underneath is the gator going, fall, fall, fall. So it goes, jester, jump, jester, jump, jester, jump. And he doesn't want to fall into the gator water, so he's jumping up and over. And eventually this turns into jester jumping over top, jester jumping over top. What I find is that when I sort of process it in so that at first it's just the jump, while your other hand is occupied and not really doing anything, that's good. It gets the jump from the C to the C. And there's some kids who you might have a tenor instrument that has a C way up here, like a 2-octave jump, and we were like, the jester can't jump that far. That's crazy. You're going to jump to the closest letter C. And then there's the gator underneath on the letter G, and it's going jester jump, and he's in between. He's the jester, jester jump, jester jump, and then he jumps back and forth. Jester jumping, jester jumping. You could just do this sort of steady pattern for a while. Jester jumping, jester. I mean, the kids could do that, right, to practice. But then eventually we want it to be like an ostinata. We want to have a start and a stop and a replay, right? Like you don't want just like steady forever beating. To be like that bordoun, you want an ostinata pattern where like it stops and starts over. So that's why we go jester jumping over top, reset. Jester jumping over top, jester jumping over top, right? So it's always the jester who starts down below on the biggest bar, because he wants a good platform to start the jump from, so the biggest bar. Before, when we were doing the broken pattern, I would always say that they're interrupting, but the king always starts. Interrupting, oh how rude. Because kids sometimes they'll, like C, G, 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 but I always try to say, like, you always start with C. So on the broken pattern, the king always starts. On the jester jumping part, the jester always starts the pattern from the biggest bar he can find, because he wants a good foundation to jump off of. Jester jumping over top. And again, the story I think that helps is like having the gator down here. And because some kids will, when they're doing that pattern, they'll want to go C, G, C, G, and with their right hand just go back and forth instead of actually bringing their left up and over. And I never knew, well, I always had like tricks that I tried to work to be like, oh no, like it's got to jump up and over. The frog is jumping up and over. But for this example, the gator stays on the G and the jester has to jump over. it could be whatever, but jester somehow was the right amount of syllables. It seemed to work really well and it would fit into my story. But jester jumping over top. So that poor jester is up and flying over these gators down here who want him to fall into the moat. And of course, there's that one kid who's like, he did fall in and the gators ate him. I'm like, wow, you were... There's always that like one dark kid that you're like, okay, well... Luckily, I found you a new jester, and it's, you know, I don't know. They always seem to have, there's always that one kid. But anyway, that's like my storyline that I'm going with right now. So the first part is, bring us royal food, or really, bring me royal food. I actually started when I did that one. It was bring me cherry pie, and then I was like, what else could it be? Bring me chocolate pie, and somehow that seemed to fit better. And then I went to chocolate cake and gingerbread, and then I just went for a sort of, you know, with kids you could say, what other kind of pie can you think of that's two sounds? You know, it can't be raspberry. Bring me raspberry pie. That wouldn't really, it just has to be like cherry pie. But anyway, all that to say, I've gone through a couple different edits. This is something brand new I've been doing just in the last week and a half. If you have another great idea, but you're like, ooh, this other word works much better, please send me a message and I will try it. And you can try it and we can see if it'll work. But The King and the Queen, it's been sort of fun and the kids like it and it gives them a chance to sort of be silly, but also gives us a chance to like, we're enunciating words to the cook. We have to slow it down so the cook can understand. Another thing is that like in the world of Orff Instrument, we talk a lot about adding words to Ostinata patterns or adding, so like the kid's not just thinking, there's like a poem, there's a rhythm behind that, you know, like, or, so in their head they're not just playing C, G, A, G, they're actually thinking ding, dong, diggy, diggy, dong. There's like a song there. So anytime we try and give kids like or anytime we're asking kids to play something or a complex pattern or repeating pattern, we give them a phrase or a poem or something to latch onto, because when their brain thinks about the words, they sync up so much better with the rhythm and they sync up so much better together. So in this instance, giving them the words of like, bring us royal pie. You can't say it fast because the cook has to hear, you know, like giving that context helps kids to sort of sync up a little bit. So those are my ideas for the broken bordoon, the chord bordoon, the broken bordoon, and the crossover. I've not yet moved to the moving bordoon. I haven't got, or the level bordoon. I haven't gotten to either of those yet, but you know what? That's fine. We'll at that point, maybe we can drop the king and queen and move on, or maybe we'll add another story. But those are the things that I'm using right now. Just thought I'd share. If you try them and they work out great, cool. If you try them and they work out not so great, tell me that too. And I'll see how we can sort of adjust some things or what other things might work. So another one thing I wanted to share about was when I'm like first graders, when they're exploring the instruments, when we're playing around, there's some really cool activities and things that you can do. Artie Almeida has a wonderful book called Mallet Madness, and there's another one called Mallet Madness 2, or Mallet Madness Strikes Again. Both of those books are great, have lots of different exploratory activities for percussion instruments like the Orff Instruments, and they're fun for kids to play, and it's great for getting kids to explore. Another resource I really love is this resource by Corey Bloom if you know her from TPT, it's Rhythm and Bloom on Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm going to pull up sort of what I do with my firsties when we're exploring the instruments. So, and I've got the visual here, so let me see if I can show you. So the whole idea is that you're taking a trip to the amusement park. Sorry, and I have it here on my iPad. I can just show you some of the visuals in here. So there's a prompt up on the top that says, like, today we're going on a field trip to the amusement park. And for each of these pages, so she's laid out what you would maybe do on a trip to the amusement park. She's got some great ideas in here. So there are some prompts in here and then some images to help you along the way. And the really cool thing is that, like, you can add to or take away from this the framework she set out, but the framework is so good that I like using it. I bought it years and years ago, and I use it every year, often with multiple grades. Sometimes I'll ask to do it again. So let me just sort of take you through what I do with kiddos with this trip to the amusement park, and then I can sort of share how we adjust or how we do whatever. I'll try and hike this up. So this is normally it wouldn't be on an iPad just for me. It'd be up on the board for kids to see. But because of tonight, I'm just putting it on the iPad. So my kids in Kansas City, we live close to a really big amusement park called Worlds of Fun. Maybe your kids go to Six Flags or go to, I don't know, that huge one in Ohio, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Or maybe go to, Disney or whatever. But amusement parks are pretty universal, and if kids don't go to them themselves, they know of them usually. And so before I say we're going to an amusement park, I say or I ask kids, what would you do at an amusement park? What are some things? Just trying to gauge their baseline knowledge. And so before I even show them a picture, they would say roller coaster. Okay, what else? Carousel. Sure. Okay, what else? Ferris wheel. Okay, do you just ride rides at an amusement park? No, you can walk around. Maybe there's a petting zoo. Maybe. And then kids are starting to pull in carnival schema and all sorts of stuff. What do you do when you get hungry? Oh, there's food. What kind of food? You talk about some of that just ahead of time to give them a context, a baseline. And again, I love pulling in images, real images. I pull in a couple from Worlds of Fun so they can see the roller coasters they might know or just visuals they might have seen before to help them sort of, again, place where we are and get us sort of set in the framework in the world of what we're going to do. And I see Emily's asking, are all of your kids at an instrument? Do you take turns with just a couple instruments? In this class, my first graders, they are all at an instrument. And I know that not everybody has that opportunity. I didn't until this year or the last couple of years. After building up my Orff Instrument inventory, or at this school, they were there when I moved there this year. There were a lot of instruments. If you're in a situation where you don't have all these instruments, in a pre-COVID year, I would say they can share, or you can take turns. And my instruments at school have a covering on them. I've shared before on here about how I took basically a plastic shower liner and made drop covers for all of them. So if my kids had their own mallets, they could absolutely switch in and out on an instrument and not have to worry about sanitization, because they're touching their own mallets, and then I spray down the instrument between each class, so it's not really as big of a deal. But pre-COVID, I'd say they could share an instrument or just switch in and out really quickly. This is not quite as easy, maybe. But I'm going to share sort of what I do with my kiddos. And yes, thanks for asking, Emily. All the kids are at instruments for this lesson. So to go to the amusement park, we talk about we're going to go, and then we say, have you been to an amusement park before? What kinds of things do you see there? Well, we're going to ride our bikes. We could maybe use a car, but we're going to ride our bikes to the instruments. So to the amusement park. So luckily, you all have your bicycle with you, and the kids are like, what? Yeah, see, you got your handlebars right here. And then Corey has this great sort of visual. It says, pick up your mallets, put one in each hand. You're going to touch the tops of the mallets together to make a handlebar. And then she actually has them do tuck your elbows in just a little bit. So she's giving them the visual up on the screen, so they're sort of making a bicycle. And then I take them on a ride and say, okay, well, here we go. We're going to be riding down the street. Oh, no! A squirrel just jumped out in front of us. Quick, swerve. Okay, all right. Oh no, there's a pothole. Swerve so we don't pop a tire. And so multiple things. Somebody throws a water balloon at us. I can't remember. It depends on the day how hungry I'm feeling. But we're riding along on our bicycles, doing sorts of whatever we want on our way there. This is just for fun. This is just to sort of get them into this sort of position of where their mallets are going to go, or it's just to play around with the mallets, explore. And just, see what you can do. You can even be like, oh no, someone's throwing a water balloon. Quick, hit it out, And so I don't know that I would do that with kids, have them all waving mallets at the same time. But, you could do whatever if you wanted to, have them do things along the way with the mallets as we're getting there. So we get to the amusement park. We put down our kickstand. Right, of the one. You could put a mallet down if the kids know what a kickstand is. Or you can, lock up the bike, whatever. And then we go into the amusement park. And, we can see the Ferris wheel. That means we made it. So there are all these things that, again, you could use this or not. You could edit out one of these slides if you didn't want it. If you didn't want that to be part of the story, do whatever you want. So so she said, let's park our bikes and go get tickets as we walk up to the ticket booth. So then what's really fun for the kids is when Corey has the kids walk through the amusement park, she has them flip their mallets over so that the ball part of the mallet is in their hand, and then they're going to walk with like the stick. So the the handle or the grippy part where they hold on, that's what's going to walk on the instrument. So we're walking up to the ticket counter. And at this point, I'm like, excuse me, are some of you stomping up the ticket counter? That's what happens when you stomp. You know, we're not trying to stomp our way there. No, we're just walking nicely up to the ticket counter. What is happening? Because there's always that kid who's like, oh, it's quieter. That means I can hit harder. No. So, you know, we're walking up, and then we get to the ticket counter, and Corey has this prompt of, okay, so they're walking. I'm sort of skipping because it shows like turn your mallets around and use the other side. So you can use that as a visual if you want up on the board. But again, you don't have to follow this verbatim. You can add and take away and do whatever you want. So how many tickets do we need? I count the number of kids who are in that class that day. 17. Okay. Choose one bar, and right in the middle of the bar, you're going to tap out 17 beats. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I don't care which bar they choose. I let the kids choose. It's a little cacophonous, but whatever. You could have them do the biggest bar if you wanted, because it's a C for cash, because we're paying in cash, or credit card. You know, the C, you could pay with that and then have them all be on the same bar if you wanted, as you counted out 17. There's no T for ticket, so that doesn't make, you know, you can't really do that, but C would be great. So that you get the ticket, and then you can, you know, as you walk into the front, they click, you know, they punch your ticket, so you can punch the ticket and then walk through. So then the first thing, she has them walk to the roller coaster. We're excited, so we're walking sort of fast. Okay, great. So you get to the roller coaster, and one of the things about roller coasters, you know, is that like there's like the hill, right, and you up and then you go down. And so I actually draw out on the board, I draw like a curve sort of like that, and I say, you know, as you're going up, you go slowly, and when you get to the top, then you go down fast. And so that's going to be the same thing we're going to do here on the roller coaster, is we're going to have to walk up slow. And kids will go, I'm like, I'm sorry, did you just fall up the hill? Are you okay? Did you fall up the hill? Because we're going slowly up the roller coaster ramp. Like, are you all right? Did your roller coaster fall? You know, because kids, they just want to instinctively do that, which they'll get to do in a second. But like, again, with the story, like it goes slowly up one hill and then it comes down the hill. Once we all get to the top, I say 3, 2, 1, woo, down. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Now this car has 2 cars. So I think this roller coaster has 2 cars. So when you come down, you're going to go, sorry, 1 and then the next. You're going to have to do both this time. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's walk up the roller coaster hill. The roller coaster car is going up slowly, or you can even do, or I tend to let kids sort of explore different ways to go up the hill. I don't really care. I just want them to find fun different ways. I want them to feel comfortable playing. I want them to feel comfortable finding the right spot in the bar, right? And we're all out there together. 1, 2, 3. Right. Oh my gosh, now this next roller coaster, you won't even believe it. Instead of just going up and down, it goes up and then down, up, down, because it's a longer roller coaster. It goes slide up, slide. And usually on the whiteboard, I'll draw that out to give them that visual. So this time we're going to go up slowly, right? And then it's going to go down, up, down. Yeah? Then, so we do that. We do walk through the kids. We do it a couple times. Kids love that. Then I erase part of that part of the roller coaster, and we go up. And then this one has a loop, so it's gonna go down, up, like a loop-de-loop sort of a thing. How are we gonna make that sound different? So we go up, and down, up, down. I don't know. You have to find a different way. So we explore different ways to do that. Elena's saying, "What's the name of the TPT package?" I'm not sure the exact name. Let me look. I put it on the links page, but let me see. I have it pulled up on my computer here. Once my computer starts back up, I'll tell you the exact name. It's from Corey Bloom on Teachers Pay Teachers, and she calls it Exploring Orff, Going to the Amusement Park. But it's on the links page if you want just a direct link to it. Okay, so after you do the roller coaster, right, seated, buckle up. So she, again, gives all these visuals. You don't have to use them if you're doing it yourself. Oh, I love that picture of the kid like, ooh, I don't know if you can see that. The kid's like, oh, help. Anyway, love that. Okay, so, if you can see that. Okay, so we do the roller coaster bit, and then we walk to the bumper cars. So we flip our mallets again, we're walking. We make it to the bumper cars, and bumper cars, I sort of, again, try and show a visual. There's one in here, but this bumper car is a little flag. We talk about how the bumper car a lot of times has to have that thing that touches the ceiling, so that's where it gets its energy. So here's our little bumper car, and you have to have the pole on the end going up. So this time when we're down on the bar, you're going to have to do it like this. Or maybe more like painting so you can get a good sound out of it. I don't know, but we're going to be going like this. And then you can add another bumper car. They can go and they can crash. So like in, and crash. Out. That's fun, but it doesn't make as much sound. Let's, maybe flip like this and then go back out. So you can play around with that. Again, we start like this so you actually have the bumper car sort of look. But it doesn't make as much sound that way. So we usually flip over to just mallets. But we just remember that it's a bumper car. But usually they come in from both sides and smash in the middle somewhere and then go back out. That's what I do for the bumper cars. And then, so again, there's a visual of that on here. Thanks, Corey. And you have two that are bumping. Great. Where should we walk next? Okay, so how do you make that sound on your instrument? So what Corey does is then it's like open-ended. Well, what now? My kids, I'll give them a chance in a second. Like, where else can we go? And I say, I'm sort of hungry. Can we go and find some food? So we go and we walk. We find the concession stand. And then I say, okay, what could we have? What are you maybe hungry for? And they're like, the kids will say all sorts of different stuff. But you say like, well, what would they sell at an amusement park? What could they have? What would they sell? Like, what could you eat there? And so we usually come up with some of those food, like amusement park foods. So like corn dog, hot dog, hamburger, popcorn, ice cream cone. And so for each one, I say, oh, corn dog. How many sounds is that? Corn dog, corn dog. Okay, I want you to find a bar, and you're going to play it with that many sounds. Corn dog. We're going to do it all together. Ready, set, and here we go. Corn dog. Oh, maybe we could do, I want a corn dog. Great. I want a corn dog. Woo! You could even then set them up so that they sort of use a pentatonic scale. You could say C, D, E, G, and A if you wanted. Again, with my younger kids, I don't care. At this point, we're exploring, so I know it sounds crazy, but whatever bar they choose is fine with me. Again, I want them comfortable on the instruments. I want them to explore, so whatever bar they do is fine. So, corn dog. What else can we have? Ice cream cone. I want an ice cream cone. And you gotta tap the food. I want an ice cream cone. And we're getting one for you, and we're getting one for me, so you have to say it twice. So, I want an ice cream cone. I want an ice cream cone. You gotta do it 2 times in a row. What else can we get? Chicken nuggets? Sure. I want some chicken nuggets. I want some chicken nuggets. And if kids want to do chicken nuggets, I don't care. Again, or chicken nuggets. The only thing I don't have to do is like chicken nuggets. I don't do like the explosion craziness. We always have, stay on the same bar for the food, or try and keep it together for the food, but we're not just exploding all around, unless we're having popcorn, I guess. Because then we could have them pop the popcorn. That just sort of dissolves into craziness. So we go through all sorts of different foods. I want an ice cream cone. I want an ice cream cone. Or you could even do back and forth. I want an ice cream cone. Do you want an ice cream cone? You could, whatever you want with that. That's sort of just something that I add in, and it's ad hoc every time. We just sort of make it up as we go. Because Corey's like, well, where else could we go? Okay, well, maybe we could go play one of the games. So you could go to one of the arcades and play one of the games. You could do the, ring toss. So then you could maybe plant one down and play around it. I don't know what you do for the ring toss. I don't know how you do the ring toss. But this is all based on what kids come up with, and then we just find a way to explain that away on the instrument. Oh, we're going to do the skee ball thing. Okay. Ooh, great. Oh, no, I missed. Oh, good. Okay, got it. You only get 3 chances on the skee ball, so perfect. Okay, what else can we do? Oh, darts. Great. Okay, let's see. We're going to hit the A every time. Or probably the D every time because it's for darts. Okay, so D, dart. Okay. Oop, didn't hit it. Oh, got it. Okay. Ooh, great. Okay, got it. You know, whatever you want to do with the kids, sort of anywhere around the amusement park, take them wherever you want. You could even do sometimes if I know I have time, because Corey does have an ending for us, but if I know I have time, I'll do like fireworks. You know, so it's the end of the day, we're gonna have the fireworks display, and firework displays are usually they're quiet going up, and then there's a fun explosion. So like that first part you might hear, and then there's the explosion. You know, and then the quiet sort of launch. And this is another thing that always happens that I always sort of enjoy is that when we're doing this, sometimes the bars will pop off. It'll pop up or something will happen, you know, and then that's a teachable moment to be like, oh, cool. You know, they'll be like, oh, no, with the bar. I'm like, oh, cool. Do you think you can, you know, oh, it's like this. Do you think you can help sort of wiggle it back into place? Can you see, maybe, because there's that little pin, can you see if you can find it and then wiggle it back to where it goes? You know, and I always say, like, the one thing we don't want to do is if the bars come off the pin, we don't want to do this and smush it down, because that never seems to be a good, successful way to get the bar back on. So instead, when you know, if the bar falls off or pops off or whatever, it's okay. They're made to do that. You just sort of wiggle it sort of back in place, give it a little pressure, and then just wiggle back. You know, again, when kids, they do this early, if they realize, like, it's not a big deal, sure, you can fix it. I'm sure you're capable. Here's sort of how, you know, if you don't make a big deal out of it, it's not a big deal. And the kids can sort of fix it and go on. You can say, like, oh, how did the bar come off? Oh, you were leaning on the xylophone? Yeah, that probably better not do that. Or you're like, oh, you hit it so hard that it flew off? Yeah, well, there you go. You know, it's fireworks or whatever, but, you know, maybe don't hit. Maybe we don't want to have fireworks so big that it blows the bar right off the instrument, right? Okay, cool. But again, it's just one of those things, like, I want kids to be comfortable. This whole activity is to get them comfortable and enjoying playing on the instrument. Find different ways to make sound, find different ways to play, and be successful. So I don't want to do anything they're going to be like, oh no, I can't. You know, I want them to work, or maybe work with the person next to you, make sure you can get the bar back on, whatever. Again, not a huge deal. So then, at the end of the PowerPoint, at the end of Corey's exploration, oh no, do you feel that? Do you feel? Oh no, it's a raindrop. Oh, there was another one. Oh no. Hold on, I think I even feel one. Oh, just one drop. Did you hear that? Did you all hear a drop? And so then all at once they're like, I heard it. Oh my gosh. Oh, another drop. You know, so then we do, oh, another drop. Oh, it's sort of picking up now. Oh no. Oh, and so then I have a thunder tube, which is one of those things that you shake and it sounds like thunder. And I walk over and I grab the thunder tube and I say, oh no, I think this might be a thunderstorm. And they see me holding a thunder tube and they may be not sure what it is, and then I go, and I flick the lights once and I'm like, what comes after lightning? They're like, thunder, and I shake it and they're like, ooh, because a thunder tube is actually, it's a fun sound. If you don't know what one is or you don't have one, they're fun. You don't need a class set, just get one, and it's fun. But then the kids are over there and I'm saying, oh, if it's going to be thundering, then it's definitely going to be raining. Can you add some more raindrops? But maybe it's a nice soft rain. Oh, it's not? It's a harder... Okay, it's a harder rain? Okay, cool. And the kids will go further with that. I'm like, quick, run to the car! So flip them, and the kids will like, okay! And say, no, that's not running. That's the rain. Flip your balance. Gotta run to the car. Oh, no. We just walked out the gate. We didn't come in a car. We came in a what? In a bike! Oh, no! Get your bike! Okay, then we have to go to ride home. Quick, ride home. Oh, no, it's raining. Oh, no, it's raining. You know, so it's again, just sort of a fun, sort of a silly thing that I do with my kiddos, but it's a great way to explore. And this framework that Corey gives you is a really great framework to build off of. So I came across this years ago, and I use it. Yeah, hop on your bike and we'll pedal home in the rain. Good luck. I came across this years ago. I use it every year. I think it's super great. And again, I put that link to that on the links page. Okay, I know we didn't get through maybe quite as much today, but I shared some of the things that have worked along the way and the process of that and how it works. And we talked a little bit about borduns, how to teach kids to do that, and some of the tricks and things that don't work or do work. I'd love if you use either of these activities in the next week or so. Come back and leave me a comment, send me an email of how it worked, what worked better. Like I said, the king and queen thing for the bordoon patterns is brand new, and I've never really tried that before, so I'd love to get your feedback if it works for you, if not, or if you're like, I modified it this way. I'd love to hear that, because that's going to make it better for me teaching it to my kids. It's going to make it better for anybody else who hears about it. So if you have ideas, cool, come back and share them. I hope that this gave you a few more ideas of things to do on the instruments. If you're a Mississippi music teacher, I'll see you May 1st at Mississippi Music Educators, all online. And if not, I hope I'll see you next Monday for another Musical Mondays live video. Thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.